What's up, guys? Welcome back to Be Better Podcast, episode 52, with our good friend Alicia Trotter. Alicia, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Very good. Happy Sunday to you.
Thanks, you too.
Good. So, hey, I'm really happy to connect with you. I know we were talking obviously a little bit beforehand, and one reason why I wanted to actually meet with you is because you're the first guest that I had on that also has alpha gal. So we both have it. As you mentioned before, there's a bunch of people in the media right now. It's kind of blowing up as far as topics. How long have
hmm
you had?
A year and a half.
A year and a half. Okay. So, are you asymptomatic and you have it, or do you get actual symptoms when you have the product?
I have not had symptoms since October, but I also haven't allowed myself to have any product. Haven't had any cross-contamination. I'm really pretty strict about it.
Yeah.
And I had my labs drawn probably in March, and my alpha gal antibody went up. And I think it was because I had gotten bit by another tick. And so I'm not sure. I know that Dr. Ken Berry, I don't know if you follow any of his stuff, but he says if you get alpha gal, you're always going to have the antibodies for it. And that if you don't have symptoms, then you don't currently have it. And so my husband's trying to convince me to like take a bite of a steak and see what happens.
Yeah. I'm kind of in a similar boat. So, and I'm going to ask you this question after I give you my explanation. So, like I said before, I'm an outdoorsman, right?
Mhm.
I went down to southern Missouri and I was looking at some hunting property to potentially buy. And I walked through the woods with this agent and I came out of there, and I'm not kidding, there was probably 50 ticks on the back of each of my legs. I mean, just covered. So, I knew of the disease. I didn't have it at that time that I knew, but I knew what it was. So, I was like, hey, chances are something might have happened here. I need to go get tested. So I
Mhm.
go get tested. I test positive. My levels at that point were IEG, which is your antibody levels, right? I
Mhm.
was 0.33, okay, which is on
Wow.
the lower side, right?
Mhm.
But I never had any true symptom reactions. But I went and talked to an allergist and my primary care, and they were like, hey, you have it. You should probably avoid all mammalian products, no dairy, no cheese, no meat, obviously. So I've been cutting it out, and I'm going on 3 years now.
Okay.
Um, is there a certain time where you knew you had it, or I mean, how did you know to get tested?
Okay, so I had rescued a cat and given the cat a bath and everything, didn't see any ticks on it. It was a kitten, it was really cuddly, so I let it sleep with me that first night and I woke up in the middle of the night and I kid you not, something was crawling to me, so I pulled my sheets back and I turned the lights on. There was probably 30 ticks in my bed.
Oh,
It was, I was like, oh my gosh. And I mean, I immediately had a lint roller and I was like vacuuming. And my husband's like, what are you doing? And I was like, there are ticks all in this bed. And although I did not have any attached to me, so there's controversy over it has to be attached to you for a certain amount of time.
right.
I literally think I just got bit and I got it. And so that was in August. I did not have a symptom until October. So in October, I had cooked some bacon one morning and I jumped in my car to go to the gym and I was eating the bacon on the way to the gym, which a lot of people say too that you don't react for 4, 6, 8 hours. Well, for me, it was like immediately. I was eating the bacon and I started feeling sick. And I thought we had just gotten back from being out of the country and I thought, oh my gosh, did I get a parasite or something? And it's starting to make me sick. So I decided to go back home and not go to the gym. It went away after a couple hours. I felt better. And then the next day, I did the same thing. I ate some bacon on my way to town, got sick again. And I was like, at this point, my sick is just feeling super nauseous and then having to go to the bathroom a couple times, like to get it all out. So that happened again. I thought, oh, I bet I have a parasite. I need to do a parasite cleanse. Well, later that day, I was in Nashville, and when I'm running errands, I always keep those chomp sticks in my car.
Yeah.
And so I was hungry, so I ate a beef chomp stick, and I got sick again. And immediately I remembered the ticks, and I was like, oh, pork, beef. Oh my gosh, I bet I have alpha gal. So I did not get tested right away because I travel a lot and I had a lot of traveling coming up. And so I didn't get tested until January, but I went ahead and started eating like I had it. I was just like, I'm just gonna eat like I have it. I did not cut out dairy at first because I was like, oh, I don't think I have an issue with dairy. And then when I finally went to the allergist and he tested me, which my antibody number was 12. So that's why I think I was reacting so fast. And he said, how do you do with dairy? And when I started to actually think about how I did with dairy, I was like, do I tell him the truth or not? Because he's probably going to make me not eat dairy. And I said, well, sometimes my eyes swell up and itch and I cough and wheeze. And he was like, yeah, you have anaphylaxis to dairy. So I had to get an EpiPen and cut out dairy. But yeah, that was my story.
So your levels are not 0.12. You are 12.0 for your IgE.
Yes. And now
That's
it's
really,
21.
that's,
Now it's
yeah.
21. So now I'm higher.
You know what's funny though? The main frustration I have with this disease, if I can be honest with you, because like I'm allergic to shellfish, right? So like I'm also allergic to shellfish, meaning like it's super cut and dry, right? Hey, don't have shellfish, you won't have a reaction, easy, right? And I've been able to avoid that pretty well for the most of my life. However, with alpha gal, it's like, hey, you have alpha gal, you could have a steak, ice cream, and whipped cream and be perfectly fine. You could have one piece of bacon the next day and then go into anaphylactic shock and die. There's
Hmm.
no consistency. There's no rhyme or reason. And also in your case, right? It could be, hey, I'm going to react in 10 minutes after I eat it, or I'm going to react in 6 hours after I eat it. I mean, it's just so frustrating because there's lack of a consistency. So you're always on edge. The anxiety is super high. With me and my levels, you know, some people out there too, and I'm sure you're a part of these Facebook groups as well. There's some pretty outrageous claims out there, in my opinion. I don't believe all the pseudoscience from people in there, but some people say that the levels don't matter. My allergist, who I think is a pretty well-spoken guy, he thinks the numbers do matter because it shows your reactiveness. You know, so somebody at your case who's 12 is probably going to be, in theory, at least should be, right, more reactive
Hmm.
than somebody like me who's, you know, under one, right? I mean, I was 0.33. Now I was like at 0.12, I think. So I got tested last week. So I'm waiting on my results to come back this time. And the reason why is because I've been very strict about avoiding all mammalian products. I've had no dairy, no cheese, no nothing. As a half Italian guy, having no cheese is almost impossible, but it's worked. So my point, right, is what is your theory and what's your thoughts about the levels? Do you think they matter? Do you don't think they matter?
I don't know because now my number is 21. And like I said, I haven't had any cross contamination and no symptoms since October last year. And my last test was March this year. So I don't really know how I feel about it. And I do feel like, yes, those groups, oh gosh, there is so, I can't even really look in there anymore because it's just people feel strongly one way and then it's completely opposite for someone else. So I don't know. But according to Dr. Kenberry, the podcast I listened to, where he was discussing it, and he said he has extensively done a lot of research. He said, I assure you, I've done more research than your doctor has. And he's a Tennessean and he's a woodsman and hunts and farms and all that stuff too. He's a big carnivore eater too. So he said, once you have the antibodies, you're always going to have them. And if you don't have a reaction or symptoms, but you have the antibodies, then you're in remission. You don't have it. But like what you just said, you know, like that guy that died that was in the news, first death from alpha gal, and he didn't know he had it, and so he had eaten meat,
Cheeseburger.
yeah, just fine. Like he had eaten beef, I think, like earlier in the week, just fine, and then that cheeseburger, and he all of a sudden was anaphylactic. And I don't know, it's stories like that that you're like, well, what happens? I mean, I do keep an EpiPen with me, and I even wear a medical alert bracelet that says I have an EpiPen. Please use it. So I don't know. I don't really know how I feel about that.
Yeah, me either. Unfortunately, I carry EpiPens as well. You know, I'm in my line of work. You know, I'm in law enforcement. You know, I carry EpiPens in my duty bag, right?
Hmm.
And I'm always afraid of like, man, I hope I'm not in a situation to where I'm having a reaction of some sort, and I'm in the middle of something, and I just kind of got to ride it out until I can get to some care and things of that nature. So it's a pretty big scary thing to deal with, right? On the most part, but I mean, the real problem is, like I said earlier, with the consistency, right? If it was like my shellfish allergy, we're like, hey, if I eat this, I know it's going to happen, right?
Hmm.
It's very easy to avoid. Okay. And then also too, like if you were going to have no reaction, most people, right, with normal allergies, being, having celiac issues or
Yep.
shellfish or wheat or dairy, just straight up, you have a reaction a couple minutes later. You know what I mean? It's easy to spot. But the biggest fear, I think, for everybody with alpha gal is you eat something at 7 o'clock and then you go to bed, right?
Yeah.
You go to bed and you're just sleeping and you hope that nothing happens to you in the middle of the night. I mean, I sleep with an EpiPen next to my bed for that reason, but
Hmm.
with that first death, and it was a man out of New Jersey, if I'm not mistaken, he was a pilot and he ate a cheeseburger and ended up having anaphylactic shock and dying. That's really, really scary. And you're kind of in a constant state of anxiety every time you consume a meal, which I think, in my opinion, has really done a number to people's mental health with the disease.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And like being afraid to go outside or travel or eat out, and like as a culture, American culture, our social status is so much around food, and especially in the South where you and I are, it's like you go to any family function and what is the dish? Pork
Yeah,
barbecue. Pork
100%.
barbecue. And so it's just, I'm not fume reactive necessarily. Well, I say I'm not. If I'm in the middle of cooking pork sausage for my family and it's really smoky, it does make me cough. I don't necessarily have a reaction per se, but I'm coughing. And so I try not, but still, I can be at a restaurant where stuff's being cooked and I'm okay.
Yeah,
But yeah, it's definitely a fear factor there, anxiousness. I always say, because people ask me all the time, how do you travel so much with this? And I always just say, you have to communicate so well exactly how serious this is. And, the cross contamination is the thing that gets me every time. It's like I was in Mexico in December and I go to the breakfast buffet that morning and there's a language barrier because he did not understand the guy that I needed to cook my omelet because on the breakfast buffet, because I have celiac and I can't have dairy and, there was nothing I could eat. Fruit.
right.
Fruit was about it. So I wanted him to make me an omelet, but I needed him to understand like I need a fresh skillet, a clean skillet, a different spatula. You can't use butter. And the language barrier was so hard. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to starve to death. And I was
Yeah,
so hungry that I was like weepy and about to cry because he took a napkin and like wiped the skillet out. And I was like, no, that's not going to work.
yeah,
And a guy was standing behind me and he goes, are you okay? And I was like, no, I just can't communicate to him how serious my food allergies are. And he said, oh, I can speak Spanish. I was like, hallelujah. Can you please tell him? And
yeah,
luckily, the manager came over. He could speak English. He understood it. He was like, no, we're trained in food allergies. We're really good about it. And then that same guy was there every day when I went to breakfast and he would get out my clean skillet for me with the clean spatula. But it's really all about communication and how well you understand the seriousness of it so you can explain. And I find most of the time, this is my experience. I think I've had one negative experience, but if you can get the chef to come out and talk to you, that's where it's
really.
at because they are the ones that are going to be understanding, like, I need to clean utensils, skillet, whatever. And most of the time, I will always order fish because also they're not going to cook fish where they just cooked a steak or a pork chop or some bacon. And the chefs almost get super excited to create something off the menu.
Yeah, it's a challenge for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had the similar experience. So my wife and I, we went to Disney World for our honeymoon. We spent 11
Hmm.
days there. It cost $40 million. I swear we're still recovering financially from it, but it was an awesome trip. And we stayed at a very, very nice, or we ate at one of the nicest restaurants that you can eat at called Crystal Palace. It's like
Hmm.
$150 a person. Stupid crazy, really, really nice. And like it's all Winnie the Pooh themed. So my wife likes Disney, whatever. It was cool. Anyways, but I told them, I said, hey, I have some allergies, like what's going on. And Disney was super
Hmm.
responsible with this. And they had the head chef, I'll never forget, his name was Teddy, older guy, came out. And this a couple of years ago, I'm still remembering because it was such a good experience. All my anxiety was alleviated because he came out and he met with me. He shook my hand. He said, so what's going on? And I told him what I had. I said, hey, I'm allergic to shellfish. I have alpha gal. And he's like, okay. He's like, I'm going to give you a paper menu with everything on with all of our items on it. I'm going to circle what you can have. Give me 1 minute. Went back there. A couple minutes later, 5 minutes later, he came back and he goes, Here's the 7 things you can have. I can promise you that these 7 things will make you safe. You'll be fine. You can eat as much as you want. So I was like, great. I ordered those 7 things. It was like fried chicken, but it's cooked on its own. It was like the green beans. Like the green beans weren't cooked in pork fat or anything. It was like not lard.
Hmm.
It was some corn. It was some, I want to say it was mashed potatoes, but they didn't use any dairy in that. It was like a vegan mashed potato. And I ate very, very good. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like I had a very, very full meal. It was great. The chef came out and checked on me, made sure I was good, and he even gave me a couple options for dessert. So like I agree with you 100%. Whenever you have that interaction with your person preparing your food, right? It
Hmm.
really does make the experience better, and as well as you feel safer as a person with an illness of that regard, right? With a disease, with an allergy. Because if not, like we talked about those Facebook groups earlier, right? Like I feel like some of those people haven't left their house since they've had it.
Mm-mm.
You can't live that way.
No. And again, speaking of Disney, so I was there in February. My daughter's a cheerleader and they have nationals there.
Of
I will
course.
tell you, and even my daughter, she's 18. By the time she was a year old, she had 6 food allergies. And we went to Disney when she was 2. And
Yeah.
I emailed ahead of time where we were staying and said, "Hey, coming in with these food allergies." They made sure that in that like food court area when you're staying at one of the value resorts and they
Yeah.
have the coolers, they made sure to have like her silk almond milk stocked in there for us. And they're very Disney. If you're gonna go anywhere with food allergies, Disney is hands down the best place to go because they are very on top of food allergies.
Where
And
did you see like All Star Sports?
I think that one was Pop Century that year when she was 2.
Okay, because the Pop Century All Star and then the movies one,
Yeah.
they say their value, and that's where we stayed the first time. And like, I'm
Hmm.
not gonna lie, like, I mean, it was still fairly expensive, but
Yeah.
even it being the cheapest Disney resort, everything was perfect. I mean, like,
Yeah.
the food court, like you just mentioned, was perfect. The rooms
Yep.
were perfect. Like the pool was perfect. Everything was flawless. So I mean, I told my wife because we have a 2 year old, and I'm like, hey, when she turns about 3 to 4, we're gonna go back. And I said, we'll
Hmm.
stay at the Contemporary or the Polynesian or Royal Orleans, whatever. We'll stay at a nicer one. But I was like, we had such a good experience at the budget version of Disney. I can't
Yeah.
imagine what the real deal is going to be for the hotel. You know what I mean? It's
So we've stayed at I don't even know what it was called now. Not this year, but last year we stayed at a nicer one. I've stayed at Art of Animation, but that's a value one as well.
yeah,
It's right by the Skylift thing, Art of Animation is. So that in itself is amazing. 'Cause you don't have to go stand outside and wait on the buses. But the Polynesian, I think, would be good with a kid in a stroller because it's right on the monorail. So if they're
right.
asleep, you just push them right on the monorail and it's so
Same
nice.
with the contemporary, the monorail goes through it. So we did Chef
Yes.
Mickey there, same deal. We paid $100 a head for Chef Mickey and told him
Hmm.
our allergies. And my wife's pretty much a vegetarian, so same deal. And Chef Mickey's was really really cool experience, but they also really took care of us in regards to food allergies. So I agree with you 100%. I think Disney is the way to go. They're really kind of leading the charge
Yeah.
whenever it comes to taking food allergies serious. And I think the reason why is that lady last year died of a shellfish allergy there. So I think now, I mean, Disney strives on satisfaction. So maybe, unfortunately, when that happened, I bet they just kind of rewrote their protocols.
Hmm. Yeah, I will say if you stay at the Polynesian, they have the restaurant Ohana in there. And my chef there, when we ate, that's the first time I ever had jackfruit. I'd never had jackfruit.
Oh yeah,
And so he had barbecue jackfruit and stuffed it in a sweet potato for me, and it was so good. I actually make that now at home. Actually, that's one of the recipes in my cookbook. I mean, not the Ohana recipe, but I tweaked
yeah,
it. And I was like, "Hey guys, if you've never had jackfruit, it's actually really good and makes you think of barbecue."
yeah. I'm actually glad you said that because I wanted to ask you about that. So let me give my 2 cents here, then I want you to jump into your cookbook because I think it's really important, right?
Okay.
Those out there who don't have alpha gal, anybody with alpha gal will agree with me 100%. One thing we can all agree with is like finding safe foods to eat is the biggest challenge, right? Um, because you never know what hidden ingredient is in whatever you're eating, right? It's like you could have a chip that you've been eating, a potato chip, right? And then you see this thing on the back of it in the ingredients called natural flavors, right? You have no idea what that could be. That could be it's potato and maybe some seasoning, or that could be a potato and they cook it in lard or whatnot, and then we can't have it and it could hurt us or kill us, right? So the biggest challenge is finding safe foods you can eat that, one, don't taste like garbage, and two, finding enough of them to where you're not getting burnt out. So a lot of the foods that I cook, for example, they're probably 5 ingredients or less, right? Because I keep it super simple. I'm super clean. I don't really eat out. This, that, and the third, right? So talk to me about kind of how you solve that problem, because like I said, that's the biggest problem for us.
Yeah. So, my family's not been a stranger to food allergies. And when my daughter was one and she had 6 food allergies, I remember looking at the allergist and being like, well,
What do we eat?
how do I navigate this? And he's like, you're just going to have to get really familiar with reading food labels. And he said, and don't get so comfortable that you don't recheck the same item that you're buying because they sometimes change
They
ingredients.
change
And I was like,
all
oh gosh. And so I remember going to the grocery store the first time and it took me forever to shop because I was reading and so many words are not cut and dry. Like dairy, it's casein. And you're like, what's that? Oh, well, it's a protein of dairy. Can't have
or
it.
whey or vitamin A
Whey.
and all this
Hmm.
crazy stuff. Yeah, vitamin D even. Yeah.
So I felt like I needed a whole like interpretation guide. And so I was really defeated. And I found one book on Amazon that a mom had written for all these food allergies. And it was a cookbook where she had gotten in the kitchen and started experimenting and started figuring out how to make things that were safe. And it did not have any color picture. It didn't have any pictures at all. And I remember it was my lifeline. And so when I got alpha gal, I was thinking, okay, but I'm not going to be that person that eats the same thing over and over and over, doesn't leave the house, doesn't know how to, can't enjoy food anymore. I already have celiac too. So I'm like, I'm going to figure this out. So I just started taking all of like common things that people like lasagna. Let's just say lasagna. And figuring out how can I make this to still taste good and have the same textures and flavors, but be safe. And my husband was like, "How are you going to write a cookbook? You don't ever measure anything when you cook, period." And I was like, "You're right, but I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to do it." So I did, and I was always in my kitchen experimenting, making things. I'm like, "How do you make ricotta cheese? How do you make that?" And so I'd made it with tofu and nutritional yeast, and I figured it out. And then my daughter dabbles in photography, so she was my photographer. And then all of their friends, because I have a 21-year-old also, would be over at the house. And I would make all the kids taste the food because I was like, none of these kids have any food allergies. So if they taste it and I get their approval, then I know it's going in the cookbook. And so 55 recipes later, so it's got appetizers, snacks, main dishes, side dishes, breakfast dishes, desserts, condiments, because now you got to make your own ranch dressing, you got to make your own basil pesto,
Oh my God.
all of that stuff. Like I have brown gravy, brown mushroom gravy in there, all of that stuff made it into the cookbook. And even since publishing the cookbook, I have a lot of my social media accounts where I'm still cooking stuff. So I figured out how to make um, turkey sausage gravy, but it still tastes the same and has the same textures and really good. But
That sounds incredible.
definitely what all of these groups on Facebook made me think of when I was doing the cookbook was I tell my story, I tell what Alpha Gal is in a nutshell. I have 2 weeks worth of meal plans as if it was one person eating with Alpha Gal. Maybe your family might eat the dinners too. And I tell you what page the recipes are on, and I give you a grocery list. And in every recipe, I have a pro tip. So I'll tell you, this is the vegan cheese that I bought because it melts the best,
Hmm.
so forth and so on. So I literally give you almost everything to where you don't have to be overwhelmed. And as long as you can just read, you can do it. So,
Yeah. That might cut some people out because some people can't read, obviously. But let's hope. So let me ask you this, just for fun here. So in your cookbook, right now, obviously, we're going to post links to that so people can check it out. Obviously, um, do you have a French toast dish in there?
I do not, but I could probably whip one up this week and
Don't
write,
worry. Let me
write a
tell you.
recipe for you.
Don't worry. Let me tell you why. So
Oh,
I
you've
have
got one.
a sweet tooth, right? And
Hmm.
I loved ice cream. I love pancakes and waffles. And I used to eat the Kodiak pancakes, with the 40 grams of protein. But what's in them? Casein and whey, right? So I'm
Yep.
like, well, where the hell is that coming from? Oh, a cow, right? So I had to stop. So what I did was I experimented a ton with French toast. Okay, so I will gladly send you some pictures and everything. But everybody that has ate my French toast has told me it's the best they've ever had. And
Oh
I will tell
wow.
you right now, there's like 5 ingredients in it. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
it's super super easy. I mean, it's just bread, my little blend of eggs and spices, and I use an all natural, no BS, no extra stuff in it. Sugar, or sugar syrup. It's 100% pure maple syrup. Excuse me. And
Mm-hmm.
the way that I make it, it's just like I said. There's like 6 ingredients. It's super super good. It's got a lot of protein in it. It's really good for you. The syrup is just the sweet tooth portion of it. But I would love to send you that. Let me know what your thoughts are. Try it out. Uh,
Yeah.
it's a big hit around here. I mean, like I said, people ask for it all the time. My brother came over today. We sealed my grandpa's driveway, and I always cook for him when he comes over to help out and everything. And he's 17, and I made him an egg sandwich on this, on the vegan pretzel bun. I'm sure you know talking about pretzels,
Yeah.
right? So I made him an egg sandwich. He's like, "Man, this egg sandwich is good." But he's like, "I was really expecting your French toast." I'm like, "Damn, I should have made it." So I can send that over to you. Just let me know your thoughts, of course. But
Yeah, that
I
sounds
love that.
good.
Where's the book? Is it on Amazon?
So right now I had some printing issues with the people that print on demand for Amazon. So the Kindle version's on Amazon, but I'll give you the link for the show notes. I sell it off of my website, so it's a much nicer version, color, beautiful. I sign every copy and I ship it out myself. But I do have a sausage McMuffin recipe in there that
Yep.
is kind of like the sweet tooth, like you're eating going through McDonald's drive-through. And speaking of fast food and McDonald's, we also have to be careful because now the big thing is everybody wants to change from seed oils to beef tallow to be healthy. And that's really, I mean, unless you ask, what kind of oil do you cook in? Buffalo Wild Wings, for example, you're going to eat some chicken. They cook it in beef tallow. If you did not know that, you are going to get sick.
That was the biggest piss off moment for me because I love Buffalo Wild Wings. I always have and always will. And same deal. I mean, we went in there and I ate and I just wasn't feeling good. I'm like, oh, I wonder what the hell's going on. It's just because in theory that should be the safest place because there's no beef at all.
It's
You know what
all
I mean? It's just
chicken.
all chicken, right? And yeah, I go in there and then they're like, yeah, we're cooking a beef tallow. I'm like, why? I'm like, you guys were perfect and now you changed everything up. The only place right now I know for a fact that is 110% safe for us,
Mm-hmm.
Wingstop.
Wingstop.
Wingstop is 100% safe. I talked to their district manager and I also talked to one of their corporate people in their nutritional side and their website as well. The only issue there is that if you are dairy sensitive, which is not a majority of us, but some of us, like for us, to example, some of the sauces have dairy in them.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I do, I will get either boneless or bone in plain, no sauce, no nothing. The plain chicken by itself tastes incredible. I'm literally getting that in a couple hours when I take my daughter to my in-laws for the night. Like we're picking it up on the way. And then I have a barbecue sauce brand that I found that's safe for us. It's called Sweet Baby Ray's. I'm sure you've used that, but that's safe for us as well. It's vegan. So
Mm-hmm.
I will get the chicken from there plain, and it's already seasoned with salt and pepper, which is fantastic. And then I'll just I'll put my own sauce on there. So
Yep.
Wingstop, from my knowledge, and please don't quote me if you go there and have a reaction, I don't want to be responsible, but from my knowledge, based on what they have told me, Wingstop is 110% safe from any meat mammalian products other than dairy, right? Uh,
Okay.
that's the only fast food restaurant thing that I know that is 100% safe like that.
I've eaten it. I know Chick-fil-A cooks in canola oil, and
But they're dairy.
I was about to say I've eaten there and I got sick. Like I did not feel good.
Their breading has dairy. The problem with Chick-fil-A, because I used to eat there too, they didn't used to have bacon there. Before they had bacon, you
Mm,
could get their grilled stuff, and it was cool because the grill was just grilled, no big deal. But they cook that bacon on the same grill now. So
that's probably what
Chick-fil-A,
it was because I got grilled nuggets and fries and I was sick. So I was like,
that's
ooh,
what it is. Yep.
the
Because
bacon.
like, I used to get there all the time, and then I was like, well, damn, they started switching it up, and now they've got the same surface and stuff. And just due to the volume that they have, they can't afford to clean it up after every order, right? So
Right.
Chick-fil-A is a no go. I have heard Raising Cane's, if you get the chicken naked, is safe.
Okay.
Zaxby's, which you guys have, I know as well, is apparently the same idea. Um,
Okay.
but there's not really a Zaxby's near me, unfortunately. So I'm sticking with the Wingstop for now. But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's really interesting how we have to be so just selective on anything.
And you really have to educate yourself. Like if you're listening to this and you're new diagnosis or somebody in your family, maybe one of your kids, you really have to educate yourself on what all is mammalian. And even if you're like, I don't really have a reaction to dairy, it still comes from a four-legged mammal, so it's still a mammal byproduct. And then a lot of people are super sensitive topically to beauty products and stuff. And again, we're going back to the whole beef tallow craze right now. And that's in a lot of products and stuff. So just look, the easiest way I tell people on the beauty products and stuff is like, just look for the vegan label. Like, just look for the vegan label and you'll be fine. And eating out, sometimes we have in Nashville, we have two vegan restaurants that are also gluten free, which is like win for me. And even though I'm not vegan, if I'm in Nashville and gonna eat with any of my friends, I'm like, we're going to the vegan restaurant, and they'll be like, ugh. But then we go, and they're like, oh my God, this is really good.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, speaking of topical stuff, like I am a big fan of Duke Cannon, their brand for soap and stuff. It's a guy brand. No women's going to use that, right? It's a guy
mhm.
brand, not macho manly. And some of their soaps have a product in there called Tallow-Weight. I'm like, well, what the hell is that? I don't really know what that is. Tallow-Weight, interesting. It's the rendering of tallow from a beef, from a cow, from a bovine, right?
Oh
And
wow.
they label it all these ways to get around with stuff. So tallow-weight, right? Nobody but people like us who have done the research and are knowing to be sketchy about it are doing this research. So I had to change soaps. I had to change razor blades because the front coating had something to do with mammal products, right? My wife, for example, she because some people are reactive. Like if your husband eats a steak and you kiss him, you can be reacted to that. So my
Hmm.
wife was drinking this protein shake that had bovine peptides, and I'm like, babe, a bovine just means a cheaper cow. That's just a ghetto name for a cow. You know what I mean? So I was like, you can't be eating this shit because we could get cross contamination. And she's made the switch and all that good stuff. But there's so many like lanolin and lotions, and I mean, just anything you can imagine
Hmm.
that shouldn't have mammal products in it. They do. Like, tell me why a candle, which you would think would be made of wax and a wick, but they coat them in tallow to help them burn better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's a million and five different things plus that are just things we have to look out for, and it's a really big hindrance. But what I want to take away from this for all the people out there that are either recently diagnosed or have been battling it for a little bit, it's not the end of the world, guys. This is not a death sentence. This isn't like, hey, you're going to be miserable for the rest of your life. There's plenty of ways to mitigate this and go about your life and have a normal quality of life. You just have to take that extra step. And let me give you some positive reassurance here. I went from 275 pounds. I'm 210 pounds right now. Okay. If there's one blessing in disguise of this whole thing, one silver lining in this cloud, it's the fact that you will lose weight. I promise you that. And
Hmm.
from that, I've been able to get healthier. I've been able to get stronger. I go to the gym more often. You know what I mean? Like I was able to cut out that weight that I've been struggling with because I was forced to make these dietary adjustments. And then you're eating more clean, guys. Instead of going and in a pinch, you're going to McDonald's for a quarter pounder, which is terrible for you. You don't have that option. Now you're
Hmm.
actually having to cook these solid, wholesome meals. So despite how shitty it is at first to make the adjustments, not to be long-winded, it is something that's sustainable. And it honestly is a cleaner quality of life if you can get it under control.
I agree. And I tell people a lot of times, even if you don't have any food allergies, but you're dealing with inflammation and stubborn weight loss, if you eat like I eat, if you get this cookbook and eat like this, you will get rid of inflammation and you will lose some weight and get healthier and you'll feel better.
You don't have a choice. I mean, it's just the ingredients alone. The inflammation's a big thing, and also they talk about MCA, right, mast cell activation disease. Luckily, I don't
Mm-hmm.
have it. I hope you don't either, but
Mm-mm.
I know that kind of goes hand in hand with the disease, and that is created by histamines, right? So like people that eat these products that have a bunch of histamines as well, you're just inflaming your nervous system and pissing it off, and it just no wonder people don't feel well is because they're just full of inflammation and their whole system is just a mess. So
Yeah.
eating clean, especially with somebody like in your cookbook, right? Where like, it forces the dietary move, but as well as it's just an overall better version of eating. Guys, give it a shot. I mean, there's no negative here. You're going to lose a little weight. Okay. We could
Yeah.
all lose a little weight, right? So, I mean, I think it's a net positive overall. But I wanted to say, as somebody who has it, thank you so much for creating that resource because there's not a lot of options for us. Most of our doctors don't know about it. Restaurants are just now starting to get the trend, but that's only because they need to. So they have clients and customers to come in. But, it really is up to the community like us here, like you, to take the initiative to do this research, to blaze this trail so, other people don't have to experience the same issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I agree. And that's, since publishing the cookbook, which it's been, it'll be a year in October. Um, I find that even in those groups on Facebook, like if I want to tell somebody like, hey, I wrote this cookbook, and the admins will block me from being able to share about it. And I don't know why, because that's really sad because I created it for a tool to help alleviate overwhelm, to help you get started. And once you get the hang of things, you're pretty much good to go.
Yeah.
It's just like in the beginning is when you really need a resource and a tool, and that's what this is for. And then around the holidays, I created an ebook that's just an ebook, which is also on my website. And it has 5 appetizers and 5 desserts because that was another thing is like the social aspect of the holidays and going to someone's house for, let's just say Easter. Okay. Because here for Easter, we have ham. We have green beans cooked with bacon. We have baked beans. Some people put burger meat in there. It was like the whole menu. I'm like, well, I can't eat any of that. Well, you could eat deviled eggs, but so you take something that you can, if you make something you can eat and you take it, or maybe you're the host and you have people to your house and then you don't have to cook those things. But yeah, it was hard because my mother-in-law was like, wait, you can't eat any of this stuff? I was like, nope,
Yeah.
sorry.
I'm in the same boat. My first year of the diagnosis, I went to every family event and was not eating anything. And, the good thing too is like I've been able to supplement myself. And I mean this by like I have a protein shake I take every day. There's like 70 to maybe 85 grams of protein in that shake. It's about 600 calories, and I put 15 grams of creatine in there as well. And, it's basically oat milk, which I only drink oat milk. It's a little bit of honey, rice protein powder, which is by a Naked brand. It's only one ingredient. It's rice protein. There's just rice in there. So one ingredient, the better. Put that
Mm-hmm.
bad boy in there. I put it with some frozen strawberries and bananas. I blend it up, and I put, like I said, I put a little bit of honey in there. That right there, anywhere between 60 to 80 grams of protein just for that meal. I
Yeah,
mean, that's the hacks you need because you can't go and grab a bite to eat. You have to be able to snack and get your protein intake. I can confidently say most days I get 200 grams of protein.
that's
Um,
awesome.
it's hard though, right? I mean, it's a full
It
time
is
job.
hard. Yeah, that's one thing I have said because I'm going to be 49, and that's something like with women in perimenopause, like protein is so huge to help maintain muscle. Muscle hugs the bone so that you don't end up with brittle bones as you age. And that's one of the things that my first thing was like, oh my gosh, I used to eat cottage cheese to help me get my protein up, and now I can't. It's like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do for protein? And just like finding those vegan, clean vegan sources of like protein shakes and learning how to, get those things in there. And I'm a big proponent of like, don't drink your coffee with all this sugary crap in it and then not eat for a long time. And then a lot of people will tell me, well, I'm not hungry when I wake up. And I'm like, you're going to have to train yourself. So just with anything, like you're just going to have to train your taste buds. You're going to have to and just like have an open mind about stuff. Your mindset is everything.
Yeah.
And just trying different stuff. I mean, you can even reach out to brands and explain what you have and see if they would be willing to send you a sample or something so you don't have to spend all that money. But yeah. And just
Yeah.
like being a resource, like you and I, like being a resource, like being out here, putting ourselves out there, sharing our story, getting other people to let us talk on their platforms, and just sharing in your social media. The more we find out and the more we discover things and the more we share, then the more this is going to get easier and easier to navigate.
Yeah, my wife, and she's been a real supporter of this too. She's had an Etsy store for a while and has always made like custom T-shirts and things like that nature and like all that cool stuff. And she made these Alpha Gal T-shirts and sold quite a bit of them. And they were a big hit. I posted on some of the pages and people bought them. And I'll have a link out there for anybody who wants it as well. But we were able to sell these Alpha Gal awareness shirts, and some of them have little funny, cool designs. Like I don't like some of them are just like I literally cannot eat a steak. You know what I mean? It's just a picture of a tick with a steak or some stuff. And she gets pretty creative, but like a lot of it is just like the alpha gal, with it, ribbon, the support ribbon, right? Because that
Mhm.
spreading awareness is a big thing. The more people know about it, the more common it's going to be. Um, and unfortunately, with the way that how bad this tick season is, with all these boxes of ticks popping up everywhere from Lord knows where, right? Lord knows where. The more people are going to get it. I think they say now 1 in 5. I think it's like 1 in every 500,000 people have it. I think it's going to be more and more because a lot of those people are asymptomatic right now,
Yep.
and obviously, it's more ticks are out there right now. I guarantee you by the end of this year, maybe next, it's probably going to be within the top 5 most common allergy. I think peanuts is number one, if I'm not mistaken. Peanuts and dairy and gluten are the top, I believe. But I do confidently say I got a good feeling that Alpha Gal is going to be in that top 5 in the next couple of years. So hopefully, unfortunately, people will start to pick up on that trend, but they're going to have to. I wish it wasn't that way, but I agree with you.
Mhm.
Us being advocates for ourselves and for the community, that's all we can do.
Yeah, 100%. And oh, it just irritates me so bad that this is it's like warfare on human beings. I don't understand behind it, but there's a lot of information out there that the, diseases that the ticks carry were made in a lab. So,
Well, 100 years ago, nobody was being allergic to meat, right? I mean, it's diseases sometimes pop up out of nowhere, like Ebola. You know what I'm saying? Like those things happen. There's mutations, but tell me why I have uncles and grandfathers and cousins who've been in the woods their whole life, had ticks on them millions of times, have never had an issue, and then this year or
Mhm.
last year they go out there and get a tick, and then it happens, right? I mean, there's a common denominator somewhere down the line, and I think eventually there's going to be some disclosure, and some people are going to be really pissed off, and there's going to be some lawsuits. So I'm happy to be a part of that lawsuit because they have made my quality of life shit for a little while. Luckily, like you said, we've been able to overcome it and make adjustments and make it manageable. But I mean, there's been multiple people that have lost their lives to this. A police chief in Missouri, unfortunately, I never had the honor of meeting this gentleman, but he died. He went home, had a Philly cheesesteak, had alpha gal, didn't know. He lived in a very rural area. Emergency crews, I guess, wasn't. And I'm paraphrasing based on the report, but I guess emergency crews wasn't able to get to him in time, and he died of anaphylaxis. I mean, it's the most horrible thing you can imagine, and people are it's happening to them.
Yeah, and if you don't know you have this, and so you don't have an EpiPen or you don't live close to an emergency center, because I live so far out too. So by the time they could get to me, I don't know if I would make it. But yeah, it's serious. And I think the ones that are, like you said, he didn't know he had it. I think that's really the common thing that's happening is when they're saying, oh, people died of alpha gal. Well, most of the time it's because or all the cases I think that have been reported are because that person did not know they had it. But it
Correct.
can go from no symptoms to anaphylaxis that
Quickly.
fast. Yeah.
Yeah. Within a day. I mean, it's
Hmm.
but we don't have to reminisce that. I mean, it's the worst thing in the world to imagine. I don't wish that on anybody. I hope that all the people that are afflicted with this disease are able to use the resources like what you've provided, right, and get some help and make their life just a little easier. The world's hard enough. Being an adult's hard enough, right? I mean,
Hmm.
it's just one more thing to kind of trial yourself through. And I just really hope that with more resources like you created and other people have created, that the awareness is around there and that we have these cheat codes to really help out. So I just want to, I want to thank you again for being able to come on and share your story a little bit and talk to us about that. And obviously, I'm a buyer of the cookbook. I'm going to be purchasing one. I mean, that's just a resource to have, especially when you get in the routine of like, damn, I ate the same 6 things for the last year, right? Like being able
Hmm.
to diversify your skill set when it comes to the kitchen is only going to increase your quality of life. So I love that you did it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me on and us talking about this because awareness is everything.
It's with any disease. I mean, look at all the major diseases that came out in our lifetime or even before, right? And even autism. Autism. I always compare the two because obviously it's a different disease, but autism really wasn't that big of a thing when I was growing up. I'm 30. When I was 10 years old, maybe a couple kids had it, and now it's more so common. And I'm happy that it is because you're not happy that it's common, but I'm happy that people are able to identify it and get these children the support that they need. You know,
Mm-hmm.
not everybody, if you have that situation, you're on the spectrum. You can't just fit in the mold as everybody else. And alpha gal is the same way. Um,
Mm-hmm.
with autism in schools, it's super equivalent to alpha gal in a restaurant. We all just can't go to TGI Fridays and order ribs and be happy. Those kids
Mm-mm.
in school can't sit in the classroom and learn from the same textbook that you and I do, because they have a situation. So I'm happy about the awareness coming out about both of those things. I think it'll continue to grow, and I'm very thankful to be a part of that. So
Yeah, me too.
awesome. Well, once again, thank you so much for joining me here, guys. All the links and everything to her cookbook and her website, of course, will be on there. The ebook obviously is going to be a little easier for you guys that need to be accessible, so definitely check that out too. And then if you have any questions or need anything, you want me to get in contact with her for you, you can obviously follow her on Facebook, or if you have any issues with that, get in contact with me. I'll send you the right way, all the good stuff. But if you made it this far, I want to thank you so much for joining us, listening to both of us complain about this, and kind of share some some remedies to the problem or to the problems. And then, yeah, guys, if you're out there, like, share, subscribe, do a backflip, whatever you do, but just try to be a little better. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.